Hello there, Neil Whitfield of Small Business Big Ideas, here with day 9 of my 101 Small Business Marketing Tips video series. And today it's all about creating or updating your brochure. Now, I've got a confession to make. I don't have a brochure. The reason I say this is for those of you who've seen these videos before, you'll know that this isn't necessarily my list of 101 tips. This is a list that I am adding to and expanding on with a daily video each day, but it's not a list of my creation. So I'm not here being hypocritical saying get a brochure when I don't have one. I am here saying that the people who originally came up with the list suggested you get a brochure, and I don't have one. That's not to say I won't get one in the future, but I think, as with all things, it comes down to whether you really need one or not, the sort of business that you are in, the sort of target consumer that you have. And I was reading a book quite recently where it pretty much was suggesting that anyone who has a sales force, now whether that's the business owner or someone they employ in a selling function, would achieve much greater success if they actually had a printed brochure as a reference material, as a leave behind. I think there is some merit in that, but again, it really comes down to the individual business and the sort of market they're in and the customers they're dealing with, exactly how detailed that needs to be. I mean, it could simply be, you know, a one-pager or 2 sides of A4 or something like that. It doesn't need to be particularly expensive or glossy or complicated. So having a brochure, I think, there'll be a number of benefits. Firstly, I think one of the unintended benefits of having a brochure is that it will cause you to think quite clearly about your offering and what it is you do, and how to communicate that very clearly and succinctly, and that certainly will help you not only with your printed material but with everything else. It will also be possibly one of the first times that you start thinking about how to represent yourself visually, aside from, you know, your logo or something like that. But chances are that the brochure will need to have some form of compelling imagery or photos or some form of graphical element, which you need to think carefully and closely about how you represent yourself in that format. So it will be useful from an introspective point of view, as well as from the point of view of having some bump. You know, if you go to networking meetings or trade shows and that sort of thing, then there will be an expectation that you have some form of material to leave for people to take away with them. I would strongly suggest that everything you do needs to have a single-minded objective and a purpose, and more often than not, a good one to start with. If there's nothing else to have as a single-minded objective, then data capture is a great place to start. So, you know, you should have some form of response mechanism, you know, whether that's promoting an offer and you can direct people to a website or something like that, or a landing page where they need to give their details to download a free report or some free information or something like that. So I would suggest any brochure, you should certainly start the project of creating the brochure with the end in mind. What are you wanting to achieve? Is the brochure there to solicit a phone call? Is it to get an inquiry? Is it to generate a sale? And really that depends on how lengthy and how complex your sort of sales funnel process is. I'd suggest a brochure, more often than not, is tending to be at the start of the process, at the top of the funnel, rather than at the end, close to where the sale happens. But every business is different, so you need to think about what your brochure is there to do, and to work backwards from that. But I strongly suggest that you should have contact details and a clear call to action where you're leaving the reader in no doubt, having got to the end of it, what you want them to do. Otherwise, it's just some nice pretty pictures and some nice pretty words. You really want to get that brochure working hard so that it actually contributes to the whole process, and if it doesn't necessarily get you the sale, then it certainly moves someone that one stage closer to actually making the sale. So that's today's tip about creating or updating your brochure. Whether or not I develop a brochure remains to be seen. I am speaking at a couple of trade shows, business events in the next month or two, so I am getting some printed material produced, highlighting a couple of key offers and a couple of my key services. Whether or not you call those brochures or not remains to be seen. But yeah, I think it is certainly useful and beneficial to have some printed takeaway material that people can take away and read at their leisure. So that's today's tip, all about having a brochure. Thanks, bye.